Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 120 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we have some water purification plants to upgrade in preparation for all those resources we're going to produce, filling up the train stations we're about to build. Enjoy. We'll probably have to look at each one individually and figure out exactly how we want to do this. But let's see, we should still be in here somewhere. Might have gotten rid of it, but that's okay. We can figure out how much we're dealing with here by just doing this, and we have 40. So we have 40 water treatment plants. Let's do another line here. So we want to make the chunks. Set by factory, and we have 40. So right now we're processing this sulfuric wastewater output. And getting some purified water out of it. So the way it's set up now, we only need 225 extra purified water, because these 5 hydro plants are taking care of the byproducts, which are here, and this is all fine. But it's down here which is incorrect. So if instead of cleaning the wastewater, we'll get rid of that, what happens if we wanted to supply the full input with just water treatment plants? We also need 5. Well, that's kind of convenient in the sense to where this can be a mirror image of itself. And the space is already here, so the only thing we actually have to move are these clarifiers. And we could kind of move them down here, but this actually might be slightly better than I was expecting, because it's nice that there's some hazard concrete here to show that this is kind of the crushed stone bus. And there might be room to kind of place them down here and just barely squeeze it in there without having problems. Okay. So we need some water treatment plants here. I'm not sure exactly how many because we've got multiple setups to do, so let's just grab a bunch of them. Like, I don't know, 20 of them or something like that. Luckily, we're making them on the bus. Ah! Thought the brakes were better than that. Okay. Ah! Belts make it real hard to drive. Ah! Okay. Well, we'll just pick up all these clarifiers. Oh, it's taking forever. Get rid of the clarifiers. We'll figure that out in a bit. So we basically just need a couple more of these, and it looks like they were kind of connected like this. It's kind of weird how this is all done a little sideways here, but let's see. I'll just plop them in. Get rid of that. Looks like I broke a wire connection there. Is that going to reach? Nope. Let's see. These all probably can be connected kind of at the same spot here since they're all sharing the same water source. But let's just kind of connect that like that for now. Let's see, there's actually some extra pipes in here. Kind of want to just make a nice pattern and have this be a drop-in replacement for all of the setups. Then we have our top-up valve, which goes in there, which should keep that topped off, but it's actually completely full right now, which is not how it should operate. Although there is room in that sulfuric tank there. But we'll get it fixed up here. This logic wire is kind of doing some weird stuff, but it looks like it goes through okay. Let's see, these pipes are empty. Did I forget to replace these ones? Looks like it. Back to God mode for a second here. So there's that one. And that one. Should be all of them. So it's hooked up again. Water's going in. Saline water is... looks like all connected. Let's take this out. Drop it back in. Just to make sure everything is good. Okay. That seems like it. So now we needed to get the clarifiers in here, of which there are 5. And I wonder if all this runs at the same speed. That'd be kind of interesting. I mean, there's 5 clarifiers. Let's double check to make sure that number is correct. Where we've got 750 sulfuric water. We have to enable one of these, maybe the disabled one. No, let's see. Locked recipes. 4th time's the charm. Hidden player crafting. There we go. Water void. Get it connected, so 4.7. So indeed, 5 is the correct number. And that gets connected, and that looks like everything's good. Okay, I don't know. We're going to be able to see very well in here, so let's add some lights. Okay, that should be the upgraded setup. Of course, nothing's running, so we can't really see how it's working. But we should be able to basically pick up this whole thing and drop it in there. We might have to change some stuff on the top real quick, but let's just go in here and basically get rid of all of this. And then plop this in here, like right there. Okay, we just need to make the final connections here. Don't want to make the mistake of last time, so we want to make sure that all of the common pipes here are still connected. There's some extras in there we don't need. Let's make sure the logic wires are connected and continue along. Let's see. Let's remove this from nitric wastewater again. Plop it back in there, make sure it's looking good. Partially filled like that one. Let's see. Ah yes, these aren't running because this pipe doesn't go all the way. So let's do that. We can connect that in there and then it goes both directions. And filling up nicely. And then this other one continues the other direction. Let's see, purified water looks good. We need to get this signal through here. Now it's not actually hooked up to any of these inserters, but I think that's because it's making salt, and right now we don't have a use for salt, so we're storing it in our collection of big warehouses, so we could actually collect quite a bit of it. And I'm not too worried about salt because it's easy enough just to make disappear because you can mix it in with regular water and make saline water, so I'm not too worried about salt overload because we can just make it go bye-bye. So I'm just going to let those inserters operate normally. Oh, I was just thinking it's going to be kind of hard to find where all the errors are because there's inevitably going to be errors, and boom, found one right there. But yeah, we're probably just going to have to let this run and then find out which pipes aren't connected since I'm kind of making all these changes individually here. Let's see. We can put this right there. Actually, something else occurred to me, that we were sharing 3 pumps worth of water to go into those water treatment plants, but that's only if they're only running at partial speed. Because if they're running at full speed and we need 5 of them, that means we basically need 1 pump for each one of these, rather than to have them share. So that's good to know. So we definitely need to go through here and run some pipes down. Okay. We could put a pump in here to keep this tank really low, like around 20%, so there's more room for these to run, but I think we'll be okay. That the main problem is just that this system wasn't sized properly, so it got out of whack, but it should clean itself up quite nicely here. And that should run. But interestingly, now if you notice, these aren't unloading the sulfur anymore because we have 50,000 sulfur and these inserters have been turned off because now we have sulfur overload. So we're very close to it. But now this will fill up. The clarifiers will take care of it when it gets above 80%, and then the rest of the water will be supplied by the standard water purifiers. And that should be the upgraded setup. For ore washing anyway. Unfortunately, we have to do this a few more times. Anywhere where we're capturing acid resources. So basically all 3 of these mineral sludge setups. Well, and this is also a good lesson of why you leave extra space, because that would fit in there quite nicely. And if everything was jam-packed super close together, we wouldn't have had the room to do that. Okay, we're probably going to need to handle each one of these as its own setup, since all the numbers are different. This is the setup that's a little interesting, because we need to make mineralized water for this to run properly, and it's being stored here, which I guess it's out. It shouldn't be. There are some extra pipes in here. But we should have some mineralized water here. I wonder if this got messed up because of the water problem. But anyway, this setup actually doesn't need any purified water because it's getting the sulfuric wastewater as a result of this filtering here. But the input doesn't require purified water. It actually requires normal water plus mineralized, and we're getting a purified water output for free. And right now we're just wasting it. It might be interesting to hook it up to this side, just so we're not wasting it. It's purified water, so it's worth barely nothing, but it is kind of a problem that this doesn't have any mineralized water. And it would be processing a little bit of stuff if it could. So we probably need to have some kind of backup here. Or just handle this in a slightly different way. That might be better. Right now we're using all of our factory's mineralized water. But instead, maybe we should only... Hey, it's running a little bit. Maybe we should only use most of it, but not all of it. Let's see. We are kind of passing through here. It would be kind of an annoying retrofit, but we could put some pumps in here. Let's do that. We'll just leave this here for now. Because right now our factory is set up to not get rid of all of the saline water we have. So we probably want to have a similar setup for the mineralized water as well. Just because mineralized water does go into some other things. It's not necessarily only used as a byproduct. It's just mostly a byproduct, but this is the one situation in the factory where we're actually using it for something, so let's try to set this up a little better. So right now, the pipe is kind of passing through here. But actually, let's not do that anymore. Let's put something in here. We already have a mineralized water tank here, but let's just use yet another tank because it helps smooth things out. And actually, we could kind of like plop it in right there. And then have this be the bypass. It just skips this whole setup. Although, let's do it up here. So this is the factory's normal mineralized water, which just does its own thing. And let's come in here and upgrade all of these to plastic. And then we can kind of pick them up and then line them up right here and get rid of this stuff. And let's get a pump. We'll do pump 2 because why not? Plop it in there. Give it a circuit condition. And let's say above 80%. And we could use an overflow valve for this, but because it's a high throughput thing, perhaps having a pump here might work better, because this is potentially a dump for our entire factory's output of mineralized water. And in fact, all these machines may not be able to handle it, but I don't think it really matters since we can't even use all of the output of all of these machines anyway, so it probably won't make a difference. But let's see here, we have mineralized water, so it needs to be above 80%, which is 40,000, and if so, it will turn on and dump the remainder of it. Although, perhaps we'll set it a little lower, because our factory actually doesn't have that many uses for mineralized water right now. So it's mostly a dump. I think I mentioned earlier where, depending on where you set these settings, you can have your storage buffer be biased towards having too much of a product or having not enough of a product. So if we set this warehouse to only dump when it gets to 40,000, then that means the working level for having too much is only between 40,000 and 50,000, so it's not very much. But if we don't have that many uses of mineralized water, we might want to bias this towards just barely having enough. So it's an ingredient in some stuff, but not much. So perhaps we want to bias this on the lower end. So let's set this to 20,000. So that way 20,000 to 50,000 is actually the buffer zone for these to clear that out. And it won't be running because our mineralized water is not up to that point. And that should get this set up properly. But we need to take care of the other half, and that is to produce some mineralized water. Which we were doing right here, but it just didn't seem to be working out too well. So we'll probably want to remove this system and do it elsewhere. So the question is what kind of output of crushed stone is this thing going to have? Is that perhaps the reason why it was set up in this particular way? It's just to avoid moving crushed stone around. Sounds about right. Yeah. Because this is going to produce 45 crushed stone in total if it's running at full power. And it is a bit of a waste to be sending these resources back. Uh-oh, stuff's getting a little damaged. Oh, that's okay. So perhaps we want to leave this as it was set up before. Whoops, but we got to set it up properly. Yes, that doesn't let anything by if it's below 10,000, which makes sense. But let's see here. Let's pull in from the rest of the system, which is down here. Can we run a pipe going straight up? Seems like we could. Okay, we can kind of come in here. Luckily, we already have a bit of a wire running here. So let's make a pump. So let's unhook that for a second. Let's set up the logic for the pump. And that is if mineralized water is below, let's say, 5,000. Since the other one sets it up to... Yeah, since this one sets it up to 10, this one could fill it up for 5, and that would leave another 10,000 for just these machines to dump the remainder. And there's 2 clarifiers here to get rid of the extra, if it can't. But that should be okay. So then when we hook this pump is running to try to fill this up. And to some extent it is going. And it might actually go through all of our resources here. But this only fixes half of the problem. Because the other half of the problem is that our factory might run out of mineralized water when we need it for something. So we need to have a separate setup for that. And really, since this is the only thing we need mineralized water for, just having 2 machines worth ought to be just fine. So I'm actually going to just kind of pick this up, and then we can plop it somewhere else. And yeah, this whole thing is actually producing some sulfur, which we really don't want to do. So we need to get these set up to not do that. Because now the sulfur is just going to go down here and fill its warehouse up even higher, and we definitely don't want that. So I think I didn't set these up initially with sulfur because I wasn't sure if we were going to be overloaded on it, but since we're overloaded on it, we'll need to do something about it. But all of our stone is kind of down here, and this warehouse is completely, basically used up as far as slots are concerned. Let's see. Let's do another calculation here. So we want mineralized water. Let's do that with 2 liquefiers. What are we looking at? So basically 2 red belts. Yeah, the 3 stack inserters as it was set up. But 1 offshore pump. And water is nearby. So let's do this. Put these 2 in here making mineralized water. And this is just a temporary setup. That if we need more mineralized water for this, we'll probably have to do something a little more significant with this. But for now, I just kind of want to plop this in here and get the problem fixed. Because we've used up basically all the slots on this warehouse, so we would probably have to have like a second warehouse here, so we'd have more slots if we needed more mineralized water than this. But this should be okay. Because we only want this for a temporary fix, basically just for the one thing right now that's actually using mineralized water, which is our setup for processing geodes. And let's set this logic to basically just keep the system from being completely emptied out. So we had this pump set up to 20,000, which is 40%. So let's do this one at 20%, which is 4,000 of the tank of this size. So mineralized water has to be, although, let's see, we got to get this in the correct orientation. There we go. Got to put that there. See, mineralized water has to be less than 4,000. If so, turn on and top it off. And it is trying to run because the whole system is very empty. So when we put some stack inserters in here, it should run. And let's see, I'll do 2 regular ones and then a long-handed one just so it's not monopolizing all of one belt here. Wrong type of pipe in there. There we go. So that should top off the system here. Want to make sure there's no feedback loops going in here, but this is going in here and topping this off because this is trying to fill it up. But it stopped because it's at 5,000. And now this is going up. Luckily, making mineralized water is a very fast process. Might need to upgrade that bottom wall too. And there we go. It looks like this is basically set up. And we shouldn't be draining any of it on this side. Which we are not. It looks like it's very slowly sloshing its way down there. So the system will eventually have to equalize. But it will. Let's see, we needed to do some upgrades to this. We need to hook up the logic for these hydro plants. It looks like we have 2 clarifiers, which I think about 1 clarifier per plant should be fine. So I'm going to trust that those numbers are still good. Kind of want to have a non-return valve in here, just to make sure that these machines aren't filling up this tank. But we'll let that run. And if it gets above, let's say 90%, which for this tank is 45,000, then it'll run, and it can dump everything in this single clarifier here. So that way none of that water's wasted. Let's see, it looks like mineralized water has all stabilized. That's looking pretty good. Okay, so we need to double check the numbers on this. And if we select everything, we get 40 machines. So we'll put in 40 machines, filtering for mineral sludge, which will give us our 600 wastewater. And then we need to process the 600 wastewater. But the problem is if we kind of click this and just do this, it'll link it in, and it links it to the amount of purified water we need, which is 750, not the wastewater that we have. So it's assuming we're going to consume way more wastewater. So to fix this, we have to unlink it, set by input, and then just set the input to 600, which says we need 4 hydro plants. And we have our 4. So these plants should work properly. So now the main thing is just hooking them up to the system here. And we can kind of do that with some power poles. I'll put another pole there because I don't want to cross the wires, because this is the wire for the ores. I mean, you can cross the wires, it's just you'll have a lot of signals on the pole, and it'll be kind of difficult to kind of parse what all that information is when you've got a couple dozen resources on it. So we need to come in here and hook that up. But I don't think these are going to reach. Unfortunately, they don't. So let's put some more poles in there. And we can kind of copy these in here, but set the distances correct. So it's 50,000 sulfur for them to turn on. And ideally we'd have some near and far going on, so let's make some of these near. And now those should be hooked up. So if we throw a bunch of sulfur in here, it should stay. Yep, it doesn't leave. So that's been hooked up properly. So let's send this on the way again. So now what we need to fix is the fact that there's not enough water purifiers for this not running. So we'll get rid of this and come back here and just calculate the amount of purifiers for just purified water, if they are handling it all on their own. And we're going to need 5 hydro plants for this. So hopefully it won't be too big of a deal just to plop 2 more. Although we might be overloading that one water pipe, so we'll have to do something about that. Maybe run a pipe down here. Okay. But let's run these pipes down instead of up, since they probably won't be able to share this water with any other setups. Well, we'll put one right there. This little pond is certainly giving us lots of water. So we got the water purifiers for all of the slag slurry done. Let's see if there are any more. Specifically ones that create acid products. No, I think the last ones were up here at coal processing. Alright, let's check coal here. So how many machines are we dealing with? 56. Let's see, we'll delete this block. Create a new one. Crushed coal to coke and sulfuric wastewater. And we have 56. Which creates a great deal of wastewater. So first, we had 1575 on here. So we'll set that to input to make sure it's 1575. It looks like we needed 10.5, but we probably had this set up to slightly less than that total number of machines there, which I believe is actually up here. Yeah, we were setting it to an output of 60 per second, and we're actually making 63, so instead of setting it by this, we just set it to 60 for Coke. So yeah, we needed exactly 10 hydro plants. And it looks like the wire is already sent up here for each side. And they're already disabled, which is good. So now we can check the clarifiers and see if those are lined up correctly. Which we needed 9.4, and we have 10. So that's correct. Finally, the part that's probably wrong is how much water purification do we need? Also the 10. Oh, I just realized we didn't do this side either, so we got to go down there and get those machines set up. We'll do that last. But we need 10, and we have 3. So building 10 of them is almost certainly not going to fit in this spot here, but luckily it's a wide open area with lots of space, so we can just kind of put those wherever. But 10 of them is going to require a great deal of water. Basically 2 pumps worth. And I don't think there's any way it's going to work on these alone, so probably going to need to have our own pump jacks for this. So we'll select here. Let's see if we can find it. We want water. And I'm not sure where that would be on this list. Doesn't seem to be in here where you would expect it to be. But we can just do offshore pump. And it's 1.9. But the groundwater pump jack is 1/4 the speed, which means we basically need 8 of them to power all of this. So now we have a bit of a plan. I probably shouldn't be picking all this stuff up, because we can just reuse the design. This one right here ought to work pretty well. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That does kind of stick out a little bit, but could probably make this a little more compact, but I'm not sure if it really matters. But it does bother me that it's a little thick, so we'll come in here and kind of plop it in here. And we could probably center this a little better here. Like that, maybe. So we need these 8 pump jacks, which we can do something like that. And that should get everything connected. They just need to equalize. Looks like it's kind of having some problems with the pipes. Like it's too much for one series of pipes here, which very well might be the case. So let's move this up. Kind of do this instead. So everyone is on their own pipe. And hopefully that helps with any throughput issues. But looks like it leveled off again. So all that should be good. Let's go take care of that other mineral sludge now. Okay, get the top-up valve in there. Let's get these pipes hooked up. It looks like they're still hooked up to where they need to go. And let's get the water hooked up. So those are running. And that seems to be pretty good, around 80%. So I think all of that's set up. So that should be all of the upgrades necessary for the water treatment plants. So everything should be balanced as all things should be. And from this point, the system should be operating normally, and we can build some train stations and move all these resources down to the bus here. But that's going to have to wait until the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.